Thank you very much, Mr.
It's nice to be with you, thank you.
I think the Ethiopian Great Run is one of the spectacular sport event in the world, and you are a founder of this event. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of what we've achieved over the last 21 years to go from where we were when we started in May 2001 to where we are now. We've come a long way, and yeah, sometimes it's nice to look back and think of the challenges that we've overcome. You have to remember when we started in May 2001, the planning of the first race, we thought of it very much as an experiment. We didn't know whether we were going to succeed. I mean, a lot of things, you try them out and you hope that they work. Sometimes they don't work. And we were in that position of really not knowing whether it would survive more than 1 year. And as you can see, it survived many years. And not just survived, it's become very successful.
How was your dream to start this great run before 21 years? What was your objective to start this sport event?
I mean, the aim was very simple. It was to stage Ethiopia's first international mass participation road race. So those two components, international, meaning that it says something about Ethiopia to the international world, as well as obviously bringing international people here. Mass participation because there have been hundreds of athletic competitions in Ethiopia, and if we had not done our race, they would have continued. But mass participation means bringing the public into the domain of running.
Before 21 years, the participants are in number too much less. Recently, it reaches into 40,000 Ethiopians and out of Ethiopia participating in this competition. What do you feel when you see this?
Yes, we started with 10,000, but you remember in the first year, 10,000 was a lot of participants, because the biggest race before our race 21 years ago, it may have had 600 athletes.
All right.
So to go from 600 to 10,000 was a lot. And over the 21 years, yes, we've increased. You know, after 5 years we were up to 25,000. After 10 years we were up to 35,000, and now we're, you know, up to 40,000 and more. So that's just been a gradual improvement, an increase, and that's been great. I mean, the race has changed completely from the first year to what it is now. It's a very, very different event experience for participants, and that's because of how we as organisers have managed to develop the race in lots of areas. I mean, I suppose the first thing that comes to mind are, you know, how the music and the dancing and the fun and the celebration has become much more a central part of the race compared to those early years.
Recently, the Ethiopian Great Run is not only a sport event, it is a symbol of not only Ethiopia, the symbol of Africa. It's one of the 10th biggest great run in the world. What do you think about that?
Yes, I mean, we never set out a goal of saying we want to be the biggest in the world. As it's turned out, you're right, we are one of the biggest 10K races in the world. That's nice to be able to say that. But I think what's more important is that we're saying something about what's special about Ethiopia. People come to Ethiopia and they take part in the run, and they say they've never taken part in a 10K like this anywhere in the world. So that's saying something that's special about Ethiopia, and I think that's more important. And so we're saying something about sport tourism, because I think our race is a great vehicle for bringing people to the country and getting people to enjoy what's so special about Ethiopia. But it's also saying, even if you leave tourism to one side, it's saying what is special about the race, and that's because of how the participants take part in the race. If you go to the London Marathon, if you go to the Berlin Marathon, New York Marathon, you don't get the same feeling, you don't get the same experience that you get as a participant in our 10K or in our women's run or in the other races that we stage. So that's making a statement about Ethiopia.
Yeah.
You know, Ethiopia is a place where you experience something different.
Do you have any plan to make this great run other than sport diplomacy when you begin before 21 years?
Well, no, right from the beginning, sport diplomacy, as you're calling it, or sport tourism, or promoting Ethiopia, that was a central aim. It was a central aim of the race before the first race. In the first year, we had international television, we had international media here. If you remember, Haile won the first race, and that was brilliant, you know, to have the world's greatest athlete take part in a race in his home city and win the race. But what was important was that race was covered by Runner's World. It was L'Equipe, one of Europe's top sports newspapers, was covering it. And that was really important for us. I mean, you could stage a race in Ethiopia and not pay any attention to international media. But that was very much part of our planning in year one. And over the last 21 years, we have not stopped spending money, bringing international media, and by that I mean journalists, I mean social media, influencers, and international television production teams to Addis Ababa, because we believe that this race is a great tool for promoting Ethiopia. It shows the city, but more than the city, it shows you know, the programs that are made about the race. It goes much, you know, beyond the race, about Ethiopian culture. It shows where the athletes are training. It shows that Ethiopia is a land of coffee. It shows the great landscapes that tourists will go and visit when they come to Ethiopia.
Can you say that as a great run can achieve the objective set to promote Ethiopia to the rest of the world after 21 years? Can you say it like that?
Yes, yes. I mean, let me say two things. I don't want to sit here and say we've achieved everything. I don't say that. I mean, what I want to say is that a lot of the goals that we set, we have achieved. I mean, we've talked together now about promoting Ethiopia. We haven't talked much about developing capacity within Ethiopia in terms of our event management team, which has grown from virtually nothing to what it is now. I consider a professional event organising body. We've attracted sponsors. We've made it sustainable. So we have achieved a lot. Could we achieve more? I would say yes. Yes, we could achieve more. We want to achieve more. We try and improve our organisation every year. If you'll just allow me, I mean, we talk a lot about stakeholders. And the reason that we do that is that if you just think of our office staff, we have an office staff of 12 people. We have an event team which goes much wider than that. But what has made this event a success are the people and the organisations that contribute to its success. So your television company, EBC, have been very important over 21 years. You showed the race 21 years ago, and you're showing it again this year. Ethiopian Airlines, very, very central to the success of the race. Ethiopian government organisations, very, very central to the success of the race, if I think of the support that we've had from the police and the traffic police and things like that. Those stakeholders are very important if you believe, which I think your organisation does, that this event is important for the country. And looking from the inside as organisers, we see how important you are. And if I can just give you an example. This year, the Tour de France, that's the world's biggest cycling race. Yeah. The Tour de France started not in France. I don't know if you know, it started in Copenhagen. Copenhagen is the capital of Denmark. Yeah. So why did it start in Copenhagen, in Denmark? It was because the people in Copenhagen, that's the local government and the national government in Denmark, they thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to bring the world's biggest cycling race to our country? And they put a lot of effort and a lot of resources into staging the first 3 stages, that's the first 3 days of this massive cycling competition in their country. And why am I telling you that? Well, it's because I think that the people who get behind this event are helping this event get bigger. And that's so important because, well, if you believe, as we do, that Great Ethiopian Run is more than just a race for the participants, but that it is an event that promotes Ethiopia, then it's no wonder that people support us. And I think that's so important. And I think, sorry, I've given a long answer to your question.
That's great.
But I think that if we think about the next 10 years, where this event is going to go, I think there are possibilities for taking it to an even higher level.
Taking good experiences, for example, you mentioned that Tour de France that was beginning in Copenhagen, Denmark. That's the reason a lot of putting in that place. So what kind of lessons that we take from Ethiopian Great Run to help other races in Africa and out of Africa? Do you think that the Ethiopian Great Run can make it within the continental level or international level? And what is your comment in this regard?
So, I mean, occasionally our office and our event organising team, we get asked, I can think back over the last 15 years, we get asked, will you come and organise a race in another country? And we've done that. We've gone to South Sudan. We've organised a race there. You know, we've been a key part of the organising team. We've gone to Libya and we've helped organise a race there. I mean, when I was general manager going back more than 12 years, we went to Lahore in Pakistan. So, you know, it's nice that sometimes the expertise and the experience that we have developed gets used in other places. But I come back to the point that, you know, what is our aim? Our aim as an event organising team is not to, you know, it's not a very strong commercial aim, and it's not to become Africa's biggest event organising team. If it was, then probably what we should do is we should organise the 10K in Addis Ababa, in Meskel Square, and then most of the rest of the year we should go to Dar es Salaam, and we should go to Accra in Ghana and Lagos and organise races there. But you know, we don't do that, do we? What our office does, what we enjoy doing, is that we organise the women's run in March, we organise the Hawassa run, we organise the Bakochi run, we organise races for school children. Because our central aim, again, is to do something for Ethiopia. Now, we've talked about sport tourism, but what we haven't talked about is the health benefits of running. You know, our company's mission is to make running a lifestyle for everyone. And when we say make running a lifestyle for everyone, we're thinking of the Ethiopian public. And that's why, you know, every month we organise a race up at Ntoto, the beautiful, you know, Ntoto Park. So why are we doing that? It's to bring more people into running, because we really want to embrace those health benefits of running. So I hope you understand, you know, what our focus is. You know, we have a number of options as to, you know, where we could go, if you like, as a business. But I think for the last 20 years, I think for the next 20 years, our focus will be, you know, what this event and what our company can do for Ethiopia.
The most critical question that I'm raising right now, because I want everyone to take good lessons for this. Over the past 21 years in Ethiopia Great Run, there are a lot of challenges. I personally feel that, and overcoming these challenges into this successful story over the past 21 years. What was the most challenging factor that affects this race from the beginning, and how you overcome these challenges?
Okay, so let's go back 21 years, and you know, I arrived in the country in May of 2001. 6 months later, the first race took place, and I said to you, it was an experiment. So let's look at the things that we had to be successful. We had to make happen. I'll think of 5 things. One, we had to attract participants. You know, it wasn't going to be a race for 1,000 people. It was going to be a race for 10,000 people. 2, we had to attract sponsors. You can't organise a race like this unless you have financial resources. 3, we had to get the support from stakeholders. I've talked about that. But going back to the first year, we, you know, if you like, because we were starting small, the key stakeholder was Ethiopian Athletics Federation, Addis Ababa Athletics Federation, and the Ministry of Sport and Culture. I remember that because Ambassador Tashoma Togo was the head of the Ministry of Sport and Culture, and he was giving us our support. And I remember Ato Petrus Malaku, he was the head of the Sport Commission, and he was giving us our support. And, you know, so that was my third thing. We had to get the support. 2 more things. We had to develop capacity to organise the race. I'm thinking of human manpower, right? And I've talked about how our event team have developed. And the 5th thing is we had to find the resources, infrastructure, and all other things you could think about, branding, but in organising the event. So I've given you 5 things. What were the challenges that we had to overcome? Participation, easy. No big challenge. You set a very low participation fee, 10 birr, 21 years ago. You get 10,000 people who want to take part because we're giving them a T-shirt and a medal. And that hasn't changed. Sponsorship, how big a challenge was it? In the early years, I would say sponsorship was a challenge. I would say 21 years later, due to the success of Ethiopia's economic development, because Ethiopia, its economy is a very different place to what it was 20 years ago, I would say sponsorship has been not as big a challenge, although it's always a challenge. I've got 3 things left. Event team capacity, I think we've worked hard on that. We've put a lot of effort into developing the team, but also making sure that the right type of people work in the organisation. And, you know, I have a huge amount of pride and satisfaction in knowing that this organisation has been led by the best type of Ethiopian, with the best type of motivation, with the willingness to work hard and, you know, to give of their best. Infrastructure, we've had to overcome challenges. It wasn't easy finding barriers. You know, you need to have barriers. You need to have stages. You need to have good sound. Now we've got that. So, you know, that was a challenge 20 years ago. Less of a challenge now. What about the challenge of stakeholders? Well, I would say 80% we've been successful. But I think we can do more. You know, I think on behalf of the organisation, I want to say thank you for the stakeholders who have helped us. I really believe that we can do more. I mean, every year the Ministry of Tourism, they give us great support. I mean, Ambassador Nisise Chalti, she's been great this year. And I go back 21 years, Ambassador Sukar was the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Tourism. He came to our first press conference. Nothing has changed. But you know, I think we could do even more. And yes, I mean, yes, it is challenging. I mean, anyone who works in business in Ethiopia, anyone who works in the media, you know the challenges that you face. It's partly to do with resource, but it's also partly to do with you know, getting that support from individuals and from organisations to make your work successful.
The coming Sunday, that is the 22nd Ethiopian Veteran, will take place in the capital of Africa. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I spent 10 years in Addis Ababa. You know, Addis Ababa has become my second home. I feel pride in what Addis Ababa stands for as the capital, the African Union capital, as it was, that was set up by Haile Selassie in 1961. And you know, it's great that it is the official capital of Africa, and in a way, the fact that we are staging Africa's biggest road race, it's very fitting, isn't it? And you know, we attract media from other parts of Africa who come here, and they say, wow, I never thought that there would be a race like this in Africa. And they say, wow, you've done a great job in the way you organise this race. You know, we have races in Nairobi, we have races in Cape Town, but they're not like this. So in a way, they're saying, well done, but in a way, to answer your question, it's fitting, isn't it, that Addis Ababa is a great capital city. It's also one of Africa's great running capital cities. So in that sense, yes, we're proud, you know, from an event organising point of view, that we have Africa's biggest road race here.
Can we say that is the Ethiopian Great Run promoted to the international community at its wide acceptance level?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been known on the international athletics calendar for 20 years. I mean, we had the best possible start. You go back 21 years, Haile and Bahane Adere, you know, they were the winners, and you think of the great champions who've taken part in our race, Gebre Mariam, Workanesh, Turunesh, Seleshi, they're all winners of our race in the early years. So, you know, within 4 years, we were already recognised on the international athletics calendar. The president of what was then called the International Amateur Athletic Federation, Lamine Diak, he came to the race in 2004. Well, that was already saying, you know, we acknowledge what you're doing here in Addis Ababa, and that was 18 years ago. So, I mean, for sure we're known, for sure we're accepted, and I think Ethiopia's athletes, when they travel around the world and they take part in marathons in London and New York and Berlin, they're speaking with journalists who know about the race that takes place here, because some of those athletes, Yalan Zerf being a good example, she won London Marathon 6 weeks ago. She's won this race herself twice. Isn't that great to say that, you know, she has emerged when she was a younger athlete from Ethiopia's biggest race now to win, you know, one of the world's biggest city marathons.
Let's back to participants' feedback. Those participants comes from in African countries like Kenya or in other African countries. After this race, what was their feedback about the competition that was the Ethiopian Great Run?
Yeah, I mean, I think participants who come from outside Ethiopia to this race are blown away, which means they're so amazed by what they experience, because I think they come with relatively low expectations of what they're going to feel and experience when they're taking part, and it's just way above what they expect. I mean, we have to say that the COVID pandemic and then also the political situation in Ethiopia over the last 3 or 4 years has meant, sadly, that the number of international running tourists coming to the race has dropped considerably. You know, our hope and our aim is to get those international participant numbers back to somewhere like where they were. You know, 2015 we had over 500 international tourists coming just to our 10K. I mean, this year it's about 20% of that. So it's going to take time, but we know that when they come here, if they come here, they're going to have a great time. So the challenge is more, you know, how do we present the race, and also how is Ethiopia presented in terms of safety and security, as well as enjoyment and the fun of participating in a race in such a way that more people will come. And, you know, we've been working on that, and we know that it's just become quite a lot harder because of what's been happening in recent years, but we're not going to stop trying.
The last but not the least, Mr. Richard, let me give you an opportunity to thank those stakeholders who have been working with the Ethiopian Great Run organizers over the past 21 years. The stage is yours.
Yeah, well, I mean, from the very start, we could not have done this without the support of key people. I worked closely with the Ethiopian Athletics Federation. I had many meetings, obviously, with Haile at my side. And one thing I haven't said is that you know, highly is a stakeholder, but I mean he's the central person. Okay. You know, I was saying this 20 years ago. I'll say it 10 years ago. I say it today. I mean, Haile is a stakeholder. He's central to the race. Mm-hmm. The race would not have happened without Haile. But I think you're wanting to give me an opportunity to thank, I think particularly Ethiopian government organisations, because the government in Ethiopia plays a key role in so many sectors of society. And so, yes, I want to thank a number of those bodies, the Addis Ababa Athletics Federation, the Ethiopian Athletics Federation, the Addis Ababa City Police, the Ethiopian Police, you know, the federal police forces, the Addis Ababa city government, and obviously the national government. And I've mentioned other ministries who've been, you know, so supportive, and I've gone on to thank Ethiopian Airlines and EBC and so many others. I think, you know, alongside my thanks, I also want to make that appeal to them. I mean, I'm a foreigner. I'm a foreigner, but I'm so close to the event organising team, and my appeal to them, if they're listening, would be to get behind the event and to give your support even more, because I feel that Great Ethiopian Run as an event organising company and the races, and particularly our 10K, can become even bigger and be even more successful and say even more positive things about Ethiopia, a country that I love, and a country that is even more important if you're Abasha.
I really appreciate your commitment and passion to make this exclusive interview. Many thanks, Richard.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak with you.